Before we start, let me give you the answers for the assignment given in the previous session. Please keep your answers ready. You can check your answers as I read it. First main, answer the following. Question 1. Name the constituents of air. Answer. The main constituents of air are nitrogen and oxygen. It also contains carbon dioxide, water vapor, dust and noble gases in small amounts. Question 2. Write the percentage proportions of gases present in air. Answer. The percentage proportions of gases present in air are nitrogen 78%, oxygen 21%, carbon dioxide 0.04%, water vapor, dust and noble gases 0.96%. Second main, fill in the blanks. The major component of air is nitrogen. Air is a mixture of gases. Moving air is called wind. The earth is surrounded by a layer of air called atmosphere. We use oxygen in the air for breathing. Now, let us continue the lesson air. In the last session 1, we learnt what is air. Can you remember, children? What is air? Yes, air is a mixture of gases. What is atmosphere? Yes, the earth is surrounded by a layer of air called atmosphere. We also learnt about the constituents of air. Now, can you tell me what are the constituents of air? Yes, the main constituents of air are nitrogen and oxygen. It also contains carbon dioxide, water vapor, noble gases and dust particles. Then we learnt about the percentage proportions of gases in air, like nitrogen 78%, oxygen 21%, carbon dioxide 0.04%, water vapor, dust and noble gases 0.96%. Then we learned about the noble gases. What are noble gases? Can you tell me? Yes, the noble gases include argon, neon, krypton, xenon as well as hydrogen and helium. We also learnt about the properties of air. I hope you remember. Tell me, what are the properties of air? Yes, the properties of air are: air is a mixture of gases, air is colorless, odorless and tasteless, air occupies space, air has weight, air helps in burning. In today's session, we will do some experiments to prove that air occupies space and air has weight. We have learned that air occupies space. Now, here's a simple experiment to prove that air occupies space. So, how can we do the experiment? So, our aim is to show that air occupies space. The materials required to do the experiment are glass tumbler, glass trough. Glass trough is a glass container, you can see in the picture. Water and dry paper. So these are the things you need to do the experiment. Now, how to do the experiment? The first step is a glass trough filled with water is taken. So take a glass container and then fill it with water. Then take a piece of dry paper and put it inside the glass tumbler. So press the dry paper to the inner bottom of the glass tumbler. You can see that in the first picture. Then the glass tumbler is inverted and pressed carefully in a trough filled with water. So now, after pressing the paper into the glass tumbler, you will invert the tumbler and then press it carefully inside the trough filled with water. You can see in the second picture. Later, the tumbler is tilted slightly. In the third picture, you can see slightly the tumbler is tilted. Now let's see what happens. Now let us note down our observation. So initially the paper inside the tumbler does not get wet. So we took a tumbler and put some dry paper inside it. We pressed the dry paper to the bottom of the tumbler. Then we took a glass trough filled with water. Now the tumbler with the paper inside is pressed inside the trough filled with water. But initially the paper inside the tumbler does not get wet because the water does not get inside the tumbler. What is the reason? Though the tumbler was pushed inside a trough filled with water, water could not get inside the tumbler. What is the reason? Can you think? That means there should be something else inside the tumbler which is preventing the water to go inside. So what is that? Yes, it is air. Air is already there inside the tumbler. So we have learnt that air is everywhere. So the space inside the tumbler is occupied by air. So this air is not allowing the water to go inside the tumbler. So that is why the paper is not getting wet. But when the tumbler is slightly tilted, what happens? The air inside the tumbler comes out in the form of bubbles. You can see those air bubbles in the third picture. So whatever air is there inside the tumbler, it comes out in the form of bubbles. Then only the water gets inside the tumbler. And once the water gets inside the tumbler, the paper becomes wet. So from this experiment, we can prove that air occupies space. So our conclusion will be, this experiment shows that air occupies space. We have learned that air occupies space with the help of a simple experiment. Now, let's do another experiment to show that air has weight. So, our aim is to show that air has weight. What are the materials required to do this experiment? They are a thin stick, 2 balloons, thread and needle. Now, how to do the experiment? The first step is a thin stick is taken. So take a thin stick as shown in diagram A. 2 inflated balloons having same size is tied to a stick on either side with the help of a thread. So now take 2 balloons and blow air into it. And both the balloons should be of the same size. And tie these balloons to a stick on either side with the help of a thread. Then one balloon is pricked with a needle. So now take a needle and prick the blue balloon. What happens? So our observation will be, on pricking the balloon, the side of the stick with deflated balloon, that is without air, goes up and the other with inflated, that is with air, comes down. So look at diagram B. So when the blue balloon was pricked with a needle, all the air inside the balloon came out. And so what happens? That side of the balloon which has no air, that is deflated balloon, the blue balloon, that side goes up, and the other side where you have the yellow balloon with air, the inflated balloon. So the yellow balloon has still air inside it. So that side comes down because it is heavier than the blue balloon. The blue balloon does not have air because it is pricked and all the air has come out. But the yellow balloon still has air, so it comes down. So by this we can make out that air has weight. So our conclusion will be, this experiment shows that air has weight. Let's revise what we have learnt in this session. Points to remember. You can also read along with me, children. Air is colorless, So we cannot see air. Air is odorless, so we cannot smell air. Air is tasteless. Air occupies space. Air has weight. Air helps in burning. Now there is an interesting activity for you. Here are some more experiments. They are very simple and you can also try it out at home, children.
Hello everyone. So we are going to start the session with this quote from Sir Isaac Newton. And he said that what I have done is due to patient thinking. So he used to think patiently. So we are going to focus on skills like thinking, observation, experimentation, and few others. And end result is less important than the process of reaching there. So wherever there is an opportunity to think, please think about it. It doesn't matter whether you reach to the final answer or not. This is a list of material. Please keep these materials handy. You can go through it. I'm also going to show you an image which will clarify that which kind of material we need. So you can pause at this point and see that what do we need. We need a plastic object which can float. It can be a bowl, it can be a block like this. Then let's say a glass tumbler in which we can put this block or bowl. And another plastic container which is slightly bigger than this one. So we should be able to put this one inside that. And a bucket filled with water till half the level. So as I said, wherever there is an opportunity to think, please pause the video, write down whatever you are thinking in your notebook, and then you can resume the video. So let's start. What you have to do is that you have to predict, you have to guess at this point that what will happen if a plastic ball is kept in water. Right? Think about it. Yeah, so as many of you would be thinking that it will float, and that's what we see generally. Now, the next thing is that you have to predict further. And this time what you have to guess is that what will happen if an inverted glass is placed above the floating ball and pushed inside the water, right? So I'm giving you three possibilities. One is ball will be on top only, ball will go at the bottom, or something else will happen. If you think that something else will happen, please describe, right? So please fill in the details in this table where you have to guess and then you have to give the explanation of your guess, right? So explanation is also very important. So please do that. Let's spend some time thinking about it. Yeah, so whatever the case is there, please write down those. Now, what we are going to do is that we are going to conduct this. Now you are done with your prediction and the explanation of that. So what we are going to do is that we are going to conduct it, right? We are going to do it. So now you have all the materials with you. Please put an inverted glass above the floating ball or floating object and then push it inside towards the surface of the container. And then you write down your observation in this column once you do that. And also try to write down the explanation that why are you getting that observation. So let me quickly show you a video that what will happen if we are not able to do this. So we are using an inverted glass. We can see that we are trying to hold that object in between and then we are pushing it inside the water. And we can see that it has gone to the bottom part of the surface, right? So this will look something like this, right? So the ball has reached at the bottom. Now, what questions are arising in your mind? Think about it, write down. You can pause. Yeah, one question might be arising that how did the ball become a block, right? Yeah, that is just a side note. On a lighter note, we have used a block in place of ball to show that we can use any floating object, right? But yeah, there are many other questions which might be arising in your mind, like why does the ball go down? Why doesn't the ball remain on the top? Now, the question is that what are your possible answers or hypotheses, right? What are your possible answers? So think about it, what can be the possible answer? If you are not able to think, that's perfectly fine. But I'm sure that many of you would be having some explanation, some answer for that particular phenomena. But let me show you this image and ask you another question, that what can you say about this glass? Just try to describe as much in detail as possible. Yeah, some of you would be saying that it is half filled. Some of you would be saying that it is half empty, right? But can we say something more? Is it really half filled or half empty? Some of you are saying that glass is fully filled, right? Half with water and half with air. So that may be another possibility. Now, so the claim which you are trying to make is that even in the things which look empty, there is air in those, right? So you are trying to say air occupies space. So you are claiming, which is another word for that is hypothesizing, that air occupies space. So that is the claim which you are trying to make. Now, can we design an experiment to provide the evidence that yes, air really occupies space? So think about it, what can be done? Yeah, so you might be having many different experiments to show that. One of the thing can be like, we have a balloon, and if we blow it, then we will see that it becomes bigger, right? And it occupies more space, and there is air inside it. Hence, we can say that air occupies space. Now, many of you might not be having balloons at home, right? So then the question is that what can we substitute balloon with, right? What can we substitute the balloon with? So that is very important to think always, that if you don't have something, can we substitute that with something else, right? So what do you think? Yes, we can substitute it with the polythene, right? So let's say this is a polythene without blowing, and then we have polythene after blowing, and we can see that it is occupying more space. So again, from this we can conclude that air occupies space. Now, let's think about another experiment to show air occupies space. Can you think of some another experiment to show? Yeah. When another experiment can be, let's say, we have a bottle and we put a balloon uh, on the mouth of the bottle, and then we just try to press the bottle, and we will see that the balloon blows, right? So it again shows that, but because the balloon is blowing, it again shows that air occupies space. It is becoming bigger, right? Now let's connect the dots. So we have many observations. So we started with this phenomena that when we were pushing the inverted glass in the container, the ball was going inside, right? It was going close to the surface. And then we did some understanding with half filled with water and half filled with air glass. And we also tried to conclude that air occupies space. Now, can we connect all these observations and try to understand this question, or try to figure out the answer for this question, that why does the ball go down? Think about it. Yeah, so some of you would be saying that the space in the inverted glass is occupied by air, hence water is not entering in the glass, and that's why the ball is going down. That is definitely a possible explanation. That is a claim which you are trying to make. And as we discussed, another word for that is hypothesis. So you are saying air is filled in the glass, right? Now, can we design an experiment to show that whether air is really filled in the submerged inverted glass or not? So what can we do to show that? That is the question which we are trying to ask. And if the water is filling in, then till what level the water is entering in the glass, right? Try to think about it and see if you can come up with some experiment. Yeah, so I'm going to show you an accidental observation. So that is another very important aspect of doing science, that we should be very observative. So we should pay attention to each and every thing which we are observing. So we did this activity where we were inverted the glass and putting it inside the another container. Observe it very carefully. So you see something. I hope that from this video you would have got some idea about that, whether there is an air inside the glass or not, right? But as we were discussing, many of you might be thinking about some another experiments to show that air is filled in the glass. So some of you might be thinking that we can just put a paper strip, we can glue a paper strip on the inner side of the glass and see that what will happen, right? So we can invert the glass inside the water and we can see that till what level the paper is getting wet, right? So that can be one possibility. Another possibility can be that we can, in place of using the paper strip, we can color the inner surface of the glass. A strip of color we can put, and we can see that when we are putting it in the water, till what level that color goes into water, right? So that can also give an indication that till what level the water enter in the glass. Or if you just want to know that whether the glass has water or not, we can just put a paper. We can put a paper on top of the glass, this side. In the case of inverted glass, this is the top thing. So we can put a paper here and then try to invert it in the glass and see whether the paper get wet or not. So all these are the possibilities, right? So we can see that to verify a claim, we need not have a single experiment, right? We can verify it by doing different experiments. So we can see 3 different experiments which we are trying to do to show that air is filled in the glass. So you can do it and see what happens, right? Now, once you see and you do it, you will realize that this paper doesn't get wet, right? So then we can say that water is not entering in the glass. At least it is not entering till that level, right? So we can say that air is occupying the space in the glass, and that's why water is not entering in the glass, and hence ball is going down at the surface. So that is what we can conclude. So that is a conclusion for the phenomena which we observe. Now, what are the takeaways? So first takeaway is that air occupies space. That's what we have tried verifying using different experiments. Then we also learned that it is very important to guess or predict before we do anything, because then we have some base where we are comparing our observation with, right? So it is very important to guess before we do anything. Another thing which we learned is that we should try to give possible answer. So once we see a phenomena, we should try to give a possible answer, which is a hypothesis, and see whether that possible answer is right or wrong by conducting an experiment. So we can conduct an experiment to verify that whether the possible answer is right or wrong. So we also did some experimentation. We also learned about substitutional thinking, right? So if you don't have a particular material, what material can we use in place of that material? So that is very important aspect of doing science and engineering. And also we tried to connect the dots, right? We had many observations. So we had observation with respect to this phenomena, and also we had observation with respect to half filled with water and half filled with air glass. And we tried to connect those observations together to come to a conclusion that why the ball is going down when we are putting the inverted glass above the ball and pushing it inside. Right? Now, what are the home explorations which you can do? So first thing is that you can design experiment to show air occupies space. We have already designed a couple of them, but there are many more ways to design. So you can conduct a couple of those experiments, design a couple of those experiments, and see whether you can show that air occupies space. Also, what can you do to keep the ball in the middle of the submerged inverted glass? So let me show like this. So how can we get the object somewhere in the middle, right? So the glass is still this point and the water level is till this point, so you can see. Then how can we do something so that the object comes in the middle of the container? And what will happen if we try to lift the submerged inverted glass, which has a ball or any plastic object in it, right? So that is another exploration you can do. Or you can do any exploration wherever you have the glass, air, water, any open exploration also you can do it. So with that, thanks and happy exploring.
Here is an assignment for you children. First main, answer the following. Question 1. What are the properties of air? Question 2. We cannot see air. Give reason. Second main, fill in the blanks. Air is dash, dash and dash. Air has dash and occupies dash. Third one, air dash in burning. Third main, describe an experiment to show that air has weight. Answer all these questions in your notebook. We will discuss the answers in the next class. Thank you.